The King's Avatar, Chapter 1494 Heroes Come from the Young. Audio source, WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1494, Heroes Come from the Young. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. What guts! Pan Lin cried out. The dirty style gave people a feeling of despicableness without any sense of heroism. Fang Rui crouching and waiting there was quite despicable, but exploiting the referee was extremely daring. He already had a yellow card, yet he still dared to challenge the referee. That's why he made a movement after 17 seconds. Li Yibo said. He was giving himself a buffer for the punishment. If he was punished because of this movement, he would only receive a warning and not a yellow card. But what if Song Qiang doesn't end up coming over? Then, would the referee directly give him a yellow card? Pan Lin asked. We'll know soon. Li Yibo was wise. Why would he guess when the answer would be known soon? On stage, Qi gathered around the palms of Fang Rui's Boundless Sea, but this time, he wasn't charging as Spirit Reaches to the Rainbow. With Spirit Reaches to the Rainbow, he would crash into his opponent alongside the Qi. He had been facing Zhang Jialei's Spitfire previously, so he was not afraid. But now, he was facing a striker, the number 1 close combat class. Throwing himself at the opponent was risky. It could turn into a situation similar to throwing a steamed bun at a hungry dog. Boundless Sea didn't have much health or mana. Fang Rui was extremely cautious. He didn't want to make any risky moves. As a result, he gathered Qi in his palms and prepared to shoot a sky-piercing cannon. Fang Rui couldn't see Song Qiang's river sunset yet, but the viewers watching could see him. Sure enough, River Sunset was making his way over step by step. Careful! Tyranny's fans couldn't help but be anxious. Even though Boundless Sea was an arrow at the end of its flight, a successful ambush could result in heavy injuries to River Sunset. One step at a time, Fang Rui's perspective was displayed on the big screen in the stadium. A small window showing Fang Rui's perspective could be seen in the broadcast as well. But at this moment, Song Qiang's line of sight suddenly shifted. His gaze was fixed on that hole in the ceiling. Tyranny's fans felt excited upon seeing this sight, while Happy's fans were feeling gloomy. Had Fang Rui been discovered? The fans on both sides sighed, but for different reasons. No, not yet. Li Yibo stated with certainty. Song Qiang is only aware that it's a possibility. Pan Lin shouted. How could the careful Song Qiang neglect such an important detail? Even though he didn't know that Fang Rui really was lying in wait there, he was completely prepared for the possibility of it. Qi Bullet. River Sunset sent out a probing attack. Qi Bullet was a low-level Qi master skill and could be used by all fighter classes. River Sunset had learned it, but it clearly hadn't been leveled very high. There didn't seem to be much Qi swirling inside the Qi Bullet. Even so, it shot accurately towards the hole in the ceiling and crashed into the edges of the hole. It didn't make much of a sound before dissipating. Boundless Sea didn't move. Fang Rui wasn't fooled by this probing attack. The Qi gathered around Boundless Sea's hands didn't even tremble. The crowd erupted into cheers in praise of Fang Rui's calm. Not only had Song Qiang failed to scout out Fang Rui, this attack was equivalent to telling Fang Rui, "He's here, get ready." Pan Lin and Li Yibo sighed. A rookie was a rookie. Song Qiang was too naive. Running into someone as crafty as Fang Rui was truly a rookie's greatest misfortune. But soon afterwards, everyone was stunned. After Song Qiang's River Sunset fired a Qi bullet at the ceiling and didn't discover anything, he turned around and left. He didn't keep going. Happy's fans weren't laughing, but Tyranny's fans weren't laughing either. Song Qiang probably wasn't sure, so he decided not to pursue it. But this sort of evasion was not a style that Tyranny's fans appreciated. Even if you had your suspicions, why not just keep probing? Why run away? They were too used to seeing the boldness of Han Wenking's striker. They weren't used to seeing Song Qiang's extreme caution. As a result, when they saw him avoid Fang Rui's ambush, they weren't too happy either. They weren't just looking forward to seeing the ambush fail. They were hoping to see their own player smash apart Fang Rui's ambush and let him know that traps and schemes were nothing but paper tigers. However, Song Qiang chose to retreat. Pan Lin and Li Yibo praised him for his caution and calm, but Tyranny's fans weren't feeling too pleased. River Sunset reached the door. It looked like he was about to push the door open to leave, but who would have expected him to do it in such a manner? He punched the door and sent it flying. What is he doing? Everyone was stunned. River Sunset went through the doorway. Then, after a few steps, he turned around and looked to be gauging the distance before making a sprint. River Sunset sprinted through the doorway and jumped. Running allowed his character to jump higher. River Sunset jumped onto the wall on the opposite side and pushed off it to jump again. At the same time, he swung his fist, through the back fist. Its name said fist, but in reality, it was a palm. River Sunset pushed his palm against the ceiling, letting out a muffled sound. But then, crack! River Sunset hit the ceiling, breaking it as if it were a dried-up branch. A hole appeared in the ceiling. River Sunset's head went through first. He quickly checked his surroundings and saw Boundless Sea hastily turning around and pushing out his palm. River Sunset's arms trembled. Reinforced iron bones to welcome the sky-piercing cannon. Chi thundered. Although River Sunset had super armor, he had no foothold, so there was no avoiding the knockback from the charged sky-piercing cannon. 1,000-ton drop. River Sunset had shrunk into a ball after using the through-the-back fist, so he could get onto the second floor faster. He had made it through the hole, so he immediately used 1,000-ton drop. His 2 feet stepped onto the edges of the hole, using 1,000-ton drop to eliminate the knockback from sky-piercing cannon. But a new wave of chi from Boundless Sea had arrived. River Sunset jumped practically parallel to the floor, avoiding the attack. He rolled and got up. Boundless Sea sent out another palm, but with the super armor from Reinforced Iron Bones, River Sunset didn't dodge. He tanked the damage and counter-attacked. Boom. The crowd erupted. There were a few unhappy Tyranny fans before, but now, their excitement had reached a peak so high that tears were about to come out. Yes, this was what they wanted to see. Tough and fierce, not sparing anything to destroy the opponent. They had completely misunderstood Song Qiang. This kid was no doubt a young hero of Tyranny. He was cautious and calm, but at the same time, he hid the hot-blooded bravery to charge forward. He wasn't like what they had previously thought, a spineless coward who shrunk back at the slightest uncertainty. Good job, little Song. Tyranny's fans shouted. Happy's fans quickly cheered on Happy, smothering Tyranny's shouts. But so what if Happy's fans had a numbers advantage? Would they shrink back? Of course not. Even though they weren't on the stage, they were supporters of Tyranny. If they didn't even have the energy to persevere, how could they ask the player on stage to? Wuxia Roar. Tyranny's fans roared with all their might. The outcome of the fight was quickly decided. Fang Rui's Boundless Sea didn't have that much health left, after all. Song Qiang won. Of course, he won. There was no way he wouldn't win. However, the cheers from Tyranny's fans weren't just for the outcome, but more importantly, for how he did it. From Song Qiang, they could see the future for which they hoped. Fang Rui went out from the player booth, shaking his head. He didn't seem to be happy with the match. Even so, the audience still gave him applause. Beating Zhang Jiale and Lin Jingyan, chasing back Happy's lead, his performance was without fault. His ambush didn't succeed, but through Song Qing's unyielding attitude, Fang Rui was able to take away 12% of River Sunset's health. This meant that Happy had a slight lead. Good job. Tyranny was praising their Song Qing, while Happy was praising their Fang Rui. As he walked back to his seat, his teammates praised his performance. But Fang Rui was unsatisfied. "That little brat, playing with me like that," Fang Rui said. "It's fine, you take down some of his health, too," Ye Zhi said. Fang Rui shook his head. "It was too far from my predictions." "How much were you thinking you could get to him down to?" Chen Guo was curious. "Obviously until I got his severed head," Fang Rui said. Suddenly, everyone ignored him. "Did you think this was a 1v1 in the online game? With that little health and that little mana, you think you can beat a pro player in the playoffs who came in with full health and full mana?" Even if Song Qing was a rookie, it wasn't possible for him to be bullied to that extent. Next. Ye Zhi completely ignored Fang Rui, urging the next player to go onto the stage. Who was Happy's next player? Everyone had been guessing as soon as Fang Rui went down from the stage. If it wasn't Sumo Chung, it was Tang Rou. However, when they saw the name on the screen, everyone was surprised. Qiao Yivan, Ghostblade, 1-inch Ash. They're sending out Qiao Yivan. Pan Lin expressed his astonishment. Li Yibo thought about it. Feeling that his reasoning made sense, he replied, "Considering what has happened throughout this group arena, Sumo Chung wouldn't be a suitable player to pick." Pan Lin immediately understood. Sumo Chung was a launcher. Her greatest weapon was her long range. However, all of the fights so far had taken place in an enclosed space, which was very unfavorable for launches. Happy had chosen this map for the group arena and knew this might happen. Was that why they hadn't sent Sumo Chung out for the group arena? End chapter. The King's Avatar, Chapter 1495. Cautious Bravery. Audio source, Wuxia-World-Audiobook.com. Chapter 1495. Cautious Bravery. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Qiao Yivan vs Song Qing. This could be considered a battle between rookies, no? Pan Lin remarked as he watched Qiao Yivan walk onto the stage. Pretty much. Li Yibo nodded his head. Qiao Yivan was no longer an invisible nobody. As Happy moved towards the spotlight as a dark horse, he became recognized as one of their outstanding players. His past had been dug out long ago. Thus, people with certain amounts of authority in the scene like Zhao Chenrui, who disliked Tiny Herb, often used Qiao Yivan as an example to criticize Tiny Herb for being so blind as to letting go of an incredible talent. Qiao Yifan's plays had caught the attention of many. Some even felt sorry for him. This was his first time standing on the professional stage. But because he had been registered with Tiny Herb previously, he could not be considered as a first-year rookie and could not contend for the best rookie title. If not, people like to talk about what-ifs. Qiao Yivan himself never cared about these what-ifs though. He was extremely happy with his place in the team. He had switched classes to a Phantom Demon, but he had ample opportunities to go onto the stage. He was often given opportunities even in the 1v1 competitions, which weren't too suitable for Phantom Demons. This feeling of being valued was something he had never experienced before at Tiny Herb. He had received quite the attention. Several teams had even privately contacted him, attempting to recruit him. Qiao Yivan refused all of them without any hesitation. No team or promises could move him because he would always remember, in his time of greatest need, who the person who had extended a hand to him was. Qiao Yivan didn't have any resentment towards being ignored, but he attached great importance to being valued. He hoped that he could stay with Happy to realize his dreams. The problem was that his dreams were being realized too fast. Because of Qiao Yifan's past experiences, he didn't have high aspirations and was extremely cautious. His initial thoughts were to start over with Happy and become a pro player, one small step at a time. Yes, his initial goal had been set very low. He didn't want to give up glory, and he wanted to continue being a pro player. That was it. But now, he stood on the playoffs stage, and his team had even smoothly made it past the first round. His dreams were coming about too fast to the extent that he was caught unprepared. What was his new goal now? Champion? Was it really not a joke? When reality hit him, Qiao Yivan had truly felt a bit dizzy. The seniors at Happy had kept on blabbering about being the champions. But Qiao Yivan always just felt like they were just trying to encourage the team, even if this sort of encouragement was ridiculous. But with the seniors at Happy really the type to keep repeating the same joke? It turns out that it wasn't a joke. It turns out that I just didn't have enough confidence in myself. It turns out that we really do have the ability to fight for the championship trophy. As the playoffs grew nearer and nearer, Qiao Yivan adjusted his frame of mind. Because he realized that Happy truly did intend on walking the difficult path to become the champions. Apart from feeling bewildered, he also felt excited. I need to work even harder, so I don't become a burden to the team in our path to become the champions. He kept on reminding himself these words. And now, he was about to stand on the stage alone to pave the way to Happy's victory. Qiao Yivan took in a deep breath. He walked onto the stage and couldn't help but look back towards his team. His captain, Yi Xiu, had his arm raised, giving him a big thumbs up. "You're far better than you think you are." Yi Xiu had said these words to him before he went up. This wasn't the first time Yi Xiu had said these words to him. The way Yi Xiu said it would always fill Qiao Yivan with energy and confidence. He couldn't let down his seniors or the team's hopes. Qiao Yivan turned back and went into the player booth. He swiped his card, and his character loaded into the map. The opening was the same as all the other ones. The two characters headed towards the manor, one towards the front, one towards the back. Song Qiang chose the exact same route as the previous fight, which made his scouting much more efficient, quickly filtering through room after room. Qiao Yivan went in through the front door of the manor. He didn't make any unexpected moves and started moving through room after room too. 1-inch Ash moved much faster than Song Qiang's River Sunset, though. It seemed that he had a target location that he wanted to reach as fast as possible. After going through the front door of the manor, 1-inch Ash entered the main lobby. Past that, there were numerous hallways interspersed with rooms, 17 in total, serving various purposes. Qiao Yifan's 1-inch Ash went past 2 hallways and 4 rooms. When he reached a spot that he was satisfied with, 1-inch Ash stopped. Then, he slashed apart the door that he had just went through. Then, the door in front and on the right. All 3 doors in the room were cut apart by 1-inch Ash. Afterwards, he leaned against the wall, his sword raised. "Is he waiting?" Pan Lin asked. Li Yibo frowned. It could be considered as waiting, but it was a bit different from how it was usually done. By cutting down those doors, Qiao Yivan was giving himself away, especially since the rooms in the manor weren't cut off from each other. Song Qiang, who was scouting around, clearly heard the noise, and 3 times at that. Qiao Yivan was lying in wait, but it gave off the smell of bait. Wasn't the bait too obvious? With Song Qiang's cautious nature, he wouldn't rashly charge towards that area. Song Qiang wouldn't be rash, but he wouldn't ignore it either. Shrinking back and cowering wasn't Team Tyranny's style. River Sunset headed towards there. Boom. River Sunset also broke apart the doors as he rushed into the room to the right of 1-inch Ash's room. The splintered wood from the door flew everywhere as Song Qiang observed his surroundings, quickly getting a picture of the room's interior. He didn't see anyone, but he could see the door that had been cut apart. His gaze immediately shifted towards that room. Qiao Yifan's 1-inch Ash was quietly moving towards that door, but after a few steps, he stopped moving. He had his sword raised in front of him, ready to attack at any moment. The sword's name was Snow Stripe, a streak of white hidden amidst a dark purple light. River Sunset's footsteps slowed the closer he got. When he was almost at the door, his footsteps had practically stopped. The two players were clearly young rookies, but in this match, they seemed to have the caution of old generals. The tension in the crowd could almost be felt. This situation, where the two sides were separated by just one wall, had taken place before in the fight between Ye Xiu and Zhang Jiale. It was just that this time, the door was already destroyed. The two sides were just one step apart from seeing each other. 1-inch Ash raised his touchy, Snow Stripe, slightly. He could already feel that Song Qiang's River Sunset was right in front of the door. Light started to swirl around his blade. The contrast between the light and that streak of white appeared even more distinct. 1-inch Ash started casting, preparing to set down a ghost boundary. As for River Sunset, he seemed to hesitate when he reached the door and then suddenly retreated. The audience couldn't understand, but because of the previous round, Tyranny's fans weren't going to question Song Qiang anymore. They believed that Song Qiang was a true Tyranny hero. No matter what move he made, they wouldn't think it was because he was timid. Tyranny's heroes never cowered. He retreated 2 steps and then moved horizontally, swinging his fists. Pi. WuxaWorldAudio.com. His fist smashed into the wall. Everyone cried out in surprise. They thought that a repeat of the match between Fang Rui and Zhang Jiale would happen again, the wall breaking with a single punch. The camera zoomed in onto the wall. A bit of the wallpaper could be seen coming off. As for the wall itself, not even a tremble. Immediately afterwards, a second punch came out. Punch after punch. River Sunset kept on punching the wall. These were all normal attacks, which didn't consume mana. But at the same time, the attack power was pitifully low. Trying to breaking through the wall like this would require who knew how many punches. But Song Qiang didn't care. He just kept on punching. After several punches, he moved to a different position and then continued his barrage. People were beginning to see his intent. Hadn't Qiao Yivan broken down the 3 doors? Now, Song Qiang wanted to bring down the entire wall. It was quite a bold idea, but the execution was a bit brutish, just using normal attacks to punch the wall until it broke. The two sides were only separated by this wall. How could Qiao Yivan not hear what was going on? Song Qiang didn't care though. He had made his decision, and he would go through with it. The ghost magic swirling around 1-inch Ash's touchy, Snow Stripe, gradually dimmed. Pa, 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 pa. He could hear the sound of the punches hitting the wall. Qiao Yivan quickly realized Song Qiang's intentions. For a moment, he was in a daze. The other side unexpectedly wanted to break down the wall. This sort of cautious yet bold move was completely outside of Qiao Yifan's expectations. Should I go around, or should I stay and wait? There were only 2 choices. 1-inch Ash leaned against the wall, feeling the tremors from the punches. Stay. Qiao Yivan made his decision. Even if his opponent dispelled this trap with such a brutish method, Qiao Yivan felt like waiting would still be advantageous to him. Happy's players knew how much damage the walls could take because this was the map that they had chosen. They had a certain level of understanding of their opponents. They had a rough idea of Song Qiang's attack power. In that case, how many punches would it take for River Sunset to break down this wall? It was better to have a conservative estimate. That way, he could make plans beforehand. If it was necessary, he could finish off the wall himself and take the initiative. 1-inch Ash stopped leaning against the wall. He retreated back a few steps, his sword directed towards the wall. I'll wait. I'll decide the winner of this fight here. Everyone could see his plans. Pa, 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 pa. The sound of punches hitting a wall echoed throughout the stadium. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1496 Fighting Blind. Audio source, WuxiaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1496 Fighting Blind. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. How many punches? Not many people had the patience to count, but Song Qiang did. 164. River Sunset had punched the wall 164 times so far. Facing normal attacks, this wall appeared extremely sturdy. But after 164 punches, the wall was filled with cracks. Many parts of the wall weren't flat anymore. Song Qiang drew in a deep breath of air. Almost. He didn't know how sturdy the wall was exactly, but just based on the fights today, their vice-captain, Zhang Xinji, was able to figure out a rough estimate. Walls had a health value. Although it was an estimated range, if it came from Zhang Xinji, then it must be accurate. 165, 166, 167. After 3 punches, River Sunset temporarily stopped. The next punches would enter within that range. Song Qiang had no plans of testing what the exact value was, one punch at a time. He planned on using a powerful attack to break apart the wall in one strike. He didn't know whether Happy's Qiao Yivan was still on the other side of the wall, but if he was, he would be ready. He pretended that Qiao Yivan was there, waiting for him with a field of ghost formations. He had used around 160 punches to weaken the wall, even though he didn't know if the opponent was even on the other side. This method was a bit crude, but it was effective. This way, he didn't need to worry about falling into a trap. Song Qiang knew what class his opponent was. Phantom demons could completely fill the room with ghost boundaries, which was clearly why Qiao Yivan had chosen this room to begin with. Several fights had already taken place in this manner. How could Tyranny not have a good grasp of it by now? Then, the final hit. He could attack as he moved past the wall. Song Qiang drew in a deep breath of air. Attack. Ferocious Tiger Flurry. He decided on the level 70 skill, Ferocious Tiger Flurry. In an instant, countless punches landed on the wall. In an instant, the wall crumbled. In an instant, River Sunset charged through. After breaking through the wall, Song Qiang could see 1-inch Ash standing on the other side with his sword held in front of him. Ghost Boundary. With one glance, Song Qiang confirmed 1-inch Ash's position. With a second glance, he confirmed that there were no ghost boundaries nearby. None. Even if there were ghost boundaries, Song Qiang's River Sunset would charge forward anyways, but he felt that it was strange not seeing any. However, once a young hero of Tyranny made his decision, there was no retreating. Ferocious Tiger Flurry didn't stop. River Sunset continued to charge forward, stepping on the broken ruins. Everyone's eyes went wide at this scene, but their eyes weren't on River Sunset. Even the camera wasn't focused on this ferocious character. The camera was focused on the ceiling above him. Right when River Sunset broke apart the wall and rushed forward, the ceiling suddenly began to fall. The viewers had known about this possibility. They had been observing Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash through their omniscient view. But at this moment, someone suddenly let out a cry. The ceiling was much less sturdy than the wall. While Sunset River had been punching the wall, Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash had jumped, leaving 3 deep cuts in the ceiling. As a result, when the wall collapsed, the ceiling, which had been on the verge of collapse, lost its final support. The wall crumbled, the ceiling collapsed. But the noise sounded the same, so Song Qiang hadn't noticed this point. He didn't realize it until he saw that a shadow in front of him was getting larger and larger. Song Qiang immediately figured out what had happened. Ferocious Tiger Flurry. River Sunset continued to attack, breaking apart the falling ceiling. Yes! Tyranny's fans cheered, seeing Song Qiang's fierceness. But at this moment, 1-inch ash's snow stripe flashed with light, and a ghost boundary formed. Qiao Yifan had probably deduced that Song Qiang's River Sunset could break apart the falling ceiling, but he didn't place down a ghost boundary ahead of time. Because a ghost boundary wasn't a wall, it wasn't something that could not be entered. Song Qiang's aggression showed that even if he had placed down a ghost boundary, he definitely would have entered anyways. If he had revealed the ghost boundary ahead of time, he would have let his opponent know when to advance and when to retreat, which would not have been good. As a result, Qiao Yifan did not show his hand ahead of time. He waited until the battle began, and acted when his opponent had nowhere to run to. This was the air of a pro player. It was the biggest difference between a pro player and a normal player. Having the ceiling collapse was to scatter Song Qiang's attention and make it so that he could not move. Song Qiang's method was simple and direct. Qiao Yifan was not polite. He carefully set up a trap to face this simple and direct method. Indeed, not many people had thought of breaking the ceiling. Dark boundary. 1-inch ash started with a dark boundary, which inflicted blind onto enemies. After breaking free from the ceiling, River Sunset had lost the opportunity to interrupt the cast. The ghost boundary fell. Apart from hastily getting out of its range, there was nothing he could do. Charge. River Sunset continued to charge. But after 2 steps, he had lost his sight because of the dark boundary. Song Qiang's screen was black, but he didn't stop because of that. River Sunset continued forward, throwing a punch towards where he remembered 1-inch ash being. Collapsing fist. A loud whistle accompanied the fist, but how could Qiao Yifan not be able to dodge a punch that the opponent had blindly threw out? 1-inch ash had quietly taken a step back a while ago. Qiao Yifan was no longer in the position that Song Qiang remembered. He only knew that his punch had missed. Where was 1-inch ash? Left. Right. Behind. Behind to the left. Behind to the right. Without any hesitation, River Sunset punched again. He stepped forward, double tiger palm. Ah! The audience cried out. Song Qiang's screen was pitch black, but his step forward and his double tiger palm made it seem like he knew exactly where 1-inch ash was. His positioning and his attack were completely on point. The 2 palms covered a wide area. 1-inch ash could not dodge to the left nor the right. His only choice was to keep retreating backwards. Pa! The 2 palms missed their target. Just the force of the strike alone was able to produce a clear sound. Neither attack hit. But these 2 attacks had been let out while blind. If a normal player were blinded by dark boundary, they would fall into a disadvantaged state. However, Song Qiang's River Sunset continued pushing forward, forcing Qiao Yivan into defensive position. Qiao Yivan felt a bit annoyed. He regretted not moving far away enough in the beginning and escaping cleanly from Song Qiang. Song Qiang had guessed his position correctly both times. The first time was from memory. The second time, it was probably only because he wanted to continue pushing forward. In the darkness, there was no way to know which way was out, so Tyranny's players would always choose to move forward. Qiao Yivan should have considered this point from the beginning. Even if he hadn't escaped cleanly at the start, he shouldn't have retreated backwards. Retreating was the same as cooperating with Tyranny's fondness for advancing. The double tiger palm had forced Qiao Yivan to retreat backwards, but with this retreat, he was finally able to launch a counterattack. Even though he knew this counterattack would reveal his position. If he continued to let Song Qiang pressure him, not only would he be wasting his dark boundary, it was likely that Song Qiang would seize the initiative from him despite being blinded. Moonlight slash. Sword light flashed alongside the sound of the wind. Song Qiang couldn't see, but he could hear. It was the sound of a slash. 1-inch Ash was a phantom demon. He only had 3 low-level slash skills in his kit. Ghost slash moonlight slash full moonlight slash. 3 skills. His opponent was directly in front of him. What angle would he attack from? Song Qiang instantly made these deductions. River Sunset leaned it aside. The audience cried out in surprise. River Sunset had actually dodged this moonlight slash. WuxRWorldAudio.com. He was able to dodge it despite not being able to see. Whirlwind kick. River Sunset jumped, his legs sweeping through the air towards 1-inch Ash. Not only did he dodge the attack, he was able to counter-attack too. The audience didn't know what to say. Hit. 1-inch Ash was unable to dodge and could only take the blow. He raised his Tachi in front of him and hastily used the Blade Master's Guard to reduce the damage. 1-inch Ash was kicked back. Right when River Sunset touched the ground, he jumped up again. Soaring Tiger. River Sunset jumped, chasing after 1-inch Ash. It looked as if he wasn't blind at all. Again and again, the audience couldn't help but cry out in surprise, let alone the 2 commentators. Song Qiang played brilliantly, but Qiao Yivan didn't let his spirits drop. 1-inch Ash put himself in a steady position, ready to counterattack at any moment because this attack should not hit. It missed. Just as Qiao Yifan expected, the Soaring Tiger missed. Song Qiang's timing and thought process were precise and accurate, but if he couldn't see, he couldn't see. When Qiao Yivan put his guard, Song Qiang wasn't able to notice his slight change in position from just the feel of his attack connecting. As a result, there was a slight error in his judgment. Song Qiang was calm, but his opponent didn't panic and stayed calm despite the cheers and shouts from the crowd. In the end, Qiao Yivan was able to make use of the blind on Song Qiang. He didn't waste this dark boundary. Full moonlight slash. He attacked the airborne River Sunset, striking him in the back and sending him flying towards a corner in the room. The Phantom Ghost's power residing in his blade began to flicker. Ice Soul, Ice Boundary, and then Ash Boundary, and then Plague Boundary. Qiao Yivan calmly began his offense. End chapter.